Hey up Dr. YouTube and welcome back to a new video with Rams Fan YT. In today's video, I'm going over my predictions for this week's action of football. We've got some FA Trophy games, which is always an exciting competition, isn't it? Some proper mismatches as well. We've got some great local derbies going on. Your Sunderland Middlesbrough one, a couple of York, Lancashire ones, maybe a Yorkshire one. I think I can't remember about that to be short, but there's certainly a lot of good games as well to battle it out between the top and the bottom of the league as well. Right, starting off tonight, we've got the only championship game of Millwall versus Portsmouth. It's at Fratton Park. Yeah, I think this could be actually quite a big game in terms of who would stay up in the championship or not. I don't think Millwall's in any danger of going down, personally. They are 16th. I reckon there's just a bit too much gap in quality. Portsmouth very much are, and I'm actually hoping they lose this game for the sake of being a Derby fan. So I'm going to go for that in my predictions. I'm going to go 1-0 win to Millwall. It's fairly even between these two teams at the moment. There is Fratton Park to bear in mind. The Millwall have just had the slightly better form over the last few weeks. On to the next one, we're going into the League One games. We've got Bolton Wanderers hosting Northampton Town at, is it still called the Uniball or something like that? It's called the Tough Sheet Stadium, isn't it? What a weird name that is now. But, or if you want to go old school, for Reebok, whatever. Yeah, Bolton Wanderers have been so inconsistent this season. I think that is a fairly even assessment to make. They're 1 point outside of playoffs, so results going their way this week could mean that they will get into the top six. And they have also sacked Ian Everett. They've got a caretaker manager in charge. When I checked yesterday, I don't know if they've appointed one since then, but it's one of them things that they'll probably need a new manager sooner rather than later. But at the moment, it's still Julian Derby, I believe, in charge. I think Julian Derby, he'll probably get a win here, I imagine. He probably won't have a job coming in the season. It is only caretaker. But it's against Northampton Town, who aren't the greatest team in the league. It's a very much given win for Bolton Wanderers. They should be winning this. 2-1 to Bolton. Burton Albion. Where was this performance all season, Burton? That 4-2 against Rotherham last week. Absolute great scenes, to be fair, and has actually put them only 6 points away from survival. And considering they are one of the most informed teams in them, well, I think they are the most informed team in them, but bottom 6, maybe bottom 7 teams, there is definitely a chance that they can get out. They have done the Great Escape before, but we can definitely see it again. They got Gary Bowyer as well, which is a great managerial person to have who'll know how to get you out that position. They're at home as well against Reading, though. It's no easy task. Reading are looking for the playoffs. They are only 1 point outside of it. However, they have lost the last 2 matches. They are going on a bit of a bad run of form compared to where they were a few weeks ago. So the form just seems to be coinciding for this. 3-2 Burton win. Will be absolute scenes. Charlton Athletic are hosting Bristol Rovers at the Valley. Charlton Athletic in 10th, 2 points though, only away from the playoffs. They could be an interesting contender. They are certainly a bit more in form than both 8th and 9th of late, and also Barnsley have lost the last couple of games as well. So Charlton Athletic, if games go their way, could feasibly get into this. They've got what you'd say is a relatively easier task up against Bristol Rovers, who, as I've been saying most of the season, probably won't get relegated because they're just a bit too good for that bottom positions. In fact, I think Bristol Rovers might actually go ahead and win this one. I'm going to 2-1 Bristol Rovers. Bit of a shock result, but they've had 2 wins in their last 3 games. I think there's certainly a chance they can get another one here tonight. Exeter City versus Leighton Orient. Yeah, Exeter, although they're normally good at home, are currently in 17th on one of the. I think they are the most out of joint with Crawley Town, probably the most out of form team in the entirety of the league, only picking up 2 points over the last 6 games. It's not really good enough. Um, so even though they're at home, I do think Leighton Orient, which is one of the most informed teams in the league, actually, I think they are the most informed team in the league at the moment, having won out of their last 6, they've won 5 and drawn 1, so they are properly up there. Yeah, I think Leighton Orient will definitely look like they're going into end up in the playoffs coming into the season if their form continues. 2-1 to Leighton Orient here. I think that's a fairly easy prediction to make. Lincoln City versus Blackpool. Lincoln are in 11th and Blackpool are in 14th. Yeah, a bit of a mid-table clash. Lincoln, I think, could be a dark horse going into the playoffs. They're only 4 points off it. It will be an uphill battle, to be sure. And if anything, then it makes this Blackpool game a must-win game for them. And I think they will at home. 3-0 to Lincoln. I think Blackpool, although they've not been beaten in a long time, have been very draw heavy, as the Steve Bruce way is, to be fair. So yeah, I do think that Lincoln will get all 3 points here. On to Mansfield Town versus Crawley Town. Mansfield are woefully inconsistent. They're one of the most inconsistent teams in the league, but that does mean that they are now 12th. So, you know what? You take inconsistency with a pinch of salt, don't you? Because this is their first time back up to League One for quite a while. Crawley Town are in a really bad run of form, and if they want to stay up, they're going to need some miracle. But I do think actually Crawley could win this one quite convincingly because of that. 4-1 to Crawley Town. I may be an absolute madden for saying it, but if it happens, it certainly watch this space is all I'm saying, because I don't think Crawley have quite given up the fight yet. Peterborough United versus Wigan Athletic. Peterborough. What is going on at that club? Can someone please enlighten me? If you are a posh fan, I would love to know how you've managed to be in the Championship not even that long ago, and a regular team in the playoffs in League One, looking and staring down the barrel of a gun of relegation. They've got Darren Ferguson back in for what is this, like the 20th time? 4th time as a manager, flipping it. He doesn't stop coming, does he? Try something new, move away from the Ferguson days. They're up against Wigan, who aren't much better than 16th, but I do think Wigan on paper are going to do better here. 3-2 to Wigan Athletic. Rotherham United versus Cambridge United. Cambridge in 22nd. Rotherham on a bit of a good run of form in 13th, but I do still think there is some underlying fragilities at Rotherham, let's say. And I think Cambridge could exploit this. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw at the New York Stadium. Not what Rotherham will entirely be wanting, but it'll be a huge point for Cambridge, I think. Stockport County versus Shrewsbury Town. Shrewsbury currently at the bottom of the league. To be fair, 21st to 24th at the moment are quite a close-up pack, so are really just interchanging between themselves. It's whether another team gets dragged down into that, because they're all doing all right apart from Crawley at the moment in terms of picking up a point, 3 points or so here or there. I don't think they'll manage that, though, against a Stockport team, which have been very impressive this season, to say the least. They really have flown under the radar. Everyone would be talking about the Wrexhams, the Wickhams, the overspending in Birmingham. Huddersfield were going to be there anyway. But Stockport and Leighton Orient are the 2 real surprise packages for me this season. And yeah, I think Stockport will win this one. 1-0 to Stockport. Wrexham are having a bit of a wobble. I think that's fair to say. They have no longer look comfortably like they're going to win a game. And to be honest, against Stevenage, I think Stevenage could actually exploit this. I think you look at a Stevenage team, Yeah, very much a mid-table team in 15th. They know that they'll play out their skins to get a result here. And I'm going to go with a 1-0 win to Stevenage. Wycombe Wanderers versus Barnsley. Yeah, Wycombe Wanderers are at home for this, but I do think Barnsley have been, although they lost the last two games before that, were really impressive, and I think they may get back into form here. I'm going to go 4-2 to Barnsley in one of the most exciting games of tonight. It'll be fascinating if that actually comes true. Huddersfield Town versus Birmingham City. This is a huge game. I don't think Huddersfield will actually necessarily get their hands into the automatic positions, but Birmingham could slip up some points. And obviously, you know what my prediction for Wycombe was. But if Wycombe do win that game and Birmingham don't get all 3 points, yeah, their hands on the title may look a bit slippy. And I reckon Huddersfield aren't no mugs in this. I'm going with a 1-1 draw. Yeah, I think Huddersfield to get a point. Yeah, we'll go with that. League Two, Accrington Stanley are hosting Cheltenham Town at the Wham Stadium. Yeah, Accrington Stanley, what is going on? That's not the normal question that precedes that, but yeah, what I mean, before they were a very decent team, and they're now in 20th in League Two. It doesn't seem to be working. Whatever's going on at the club there, Cheltenham are a very mixed boat, I think, this season. I think that's fair to say. They came down last season. I don't think anyone expected them to fully walk the league, but I do think they were probably expecting a bit of a better performance than 14th. I think Accrington may actually win this one. I'm going to go 1-0 to Accrington Stanley, as they do seem to have had. They've had 3 wins in the last 4 games. It does look a bit like the ship is beginning to turn in their favour. And I think they could get 3 points here. They are at home as well, which of course helps. Bradford City versus Morecambe. Yeah, Bradford City are in 7th. They've actually probably most informed team in the league. I mean, they have done a really solid job at the moment, and they're up against Morecambe, who are on 20 points this season and the bottom of the league. I don't think it particularly helped that they got relegated last season. They were pretty shoddy there, and I think they were staring down a barrel at a gun of doing a back-to-back. I think it was last season, maybe in the season before, but they've been very much drifting down that way. I think they'll grind out a point, though. I think 2-2 draw here. It is a sort of War of the Roses clash, isn't it? Morecambe versus Bradford. I don't suppose many people refer to it as that when they normally think of it. They normally think of a team like Leeds v Burnley or something like that, which happened last night in the most dull game of football ever, as I predicted. But yeah, I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw. I think it may be a bit mental of me to say, but I do think Morecambe do have a slight chance of staying up. Chesterfield are hosting Bromley. Yeah, what a interesting one this one will be. Yeah, Chesterfield are. I don't think they're on the greatest run of form. I think they're roughly equal. I think with Bromley at the moment is 10th v 11th. I don't think either of these teams are particularly going to get playoffs. I think they'll both be content with mid-table, having both been promoted from the National League last season. I'm going to go home advantage here and back to winning ways for the Spyrites. 2-0 to Chesterfield. I'd love my Derbyshire friends to do great. I always love to see a Derbyshire club doing it really well. Colchester United are hosting Port Vale. Port Vale, I think they're a team which do look like they want to get their hands on the automatic promotion they have for most of the season. They're in 4th, just outside of it. I do think, though, this does provide a bit of a threat. Colchester in 13th are wild, like, in terms of it's so hard to predict a Colchester score. I'm going to go with a 1-0 Colchester win, though. I think at home advantage, underneath the lights, it could certainly happen. I think it's too much for Colchester to get into the playoffs. I think most people probably expected that at the start of the season. A lot of people were calling me mad for saying how high up I put Colchester, but I do think underlying numbers, there is a lot of stuff at Colchester going well. at the moment. Crew Alexandra versus AFC Wimbledon. 5th versus 2nd. This is going to be a very interesting game. Both of these teams are fairly decent. In fact, they've got almost exactly the same form over the last 6 games of 1 loss, 2 draws, and 3 wins. Just in a different order, you know. But yeah, I think 2 points are separating these 2 teams. So if Wimbledon win today, they'll probably go into the automatic zones. I don't think that will happen. It's at Gretzky Road. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. I think they will very much cancel each other out. They've both been so good this season. Fleetwood Town versus Walsall. Now, I know Walsall lost their last game, but that came as a bit of a shock. They've won 18 of their 26 games. It's been a good time to being a Walsall fan. I think that's fair to say. Probably the only Black Country team in the top 6 tiers who are seeming to have a good time at the moment. I was speaking to a West Brom fan, I believe, the other day, who said to me that they weren't overly happy with the way their team was going around about at the moment, even though they are currently in 10th or round about then, I think. They're just on the cusp of the playoffs. So yeah, Walsall, I think, is the only Black Country team I can think of, because obviously Wolves are doing horribly, and so are Rushall Olympic. So yeah, in terms of this match, we'll stop rambling. Fleetwood, I always say it, really difficult ground to go to, especially if you're a very good team like Walsall is. They often provide stumbling blocks for the teams at the tops of the league, and I think they're going to do that here. I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw here, which I think doesn't really... I think at this point Walsall are title winners regardless. I don't think it does a lot for either team, though, to be honest. Grimsby Town versus Gillingham. 9th place Grimsby Town versus Gillingham, who are all the way down in 17th. Yeah, I don't understand entirely what's going on at Gillingham. They sort of looked at one point, as they always do, like they'd reached the playoffs. A bit like the Peterborough of League One, actually. Like Peterborough in League One of League Two. They have got John Coleman, which, I mean, actually, that's not too surprising when considering how bad he did with Accrington Stanley last time he was at the helm of a job. Yeah, I think home advantage here. Gillingham aren't great at the moment. I think that's fair to say. I mean, Grimsby haven't been lasting great in the last 4 games, but they're still only 6 points outside the playoffs. So never say never. 2-0 to Grimsby Town. Will be an interesting one. Milton Keynes Dons versus Harrogate Town. Yeah, MK in 12th. Harrogate all the way down in 19th. But Harrogate have actually been picking up points lately, which is more than can be said for MK Dons in the last 4 games. Their 2 forms have been very, very different. It's very important, I think, to look at that, and I do think Harrogate will win this one 1-0. Bit of a shock, I know, but I think Harrogate are looking like a team which will probably finish around about that 19th, 18th mark, won't they? I can feasibly see Gillingham dropping below them, and potentially Barrow. I don't see Swindon managing to drop below them in their current form. But yeah, I could also see Accrington Stanley potentially overtaking them. So yeah, around about that 19th place. Notts County are hosting Carlisle. Yeah, Carlisle in 23rd. Could they stay up? I mean, it ultimately depends. They need to start getting some more wins on the board. They are going to Notts County. Very, very difficult game. Especially something Notts County, one of the most informed teams in the league. They're in 6th. You'd probably think I'd go with a straight up easy win for Notts County. I'm not going to go with that. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. I think there's something to be said for teams in jeopardy. Certainly trying to get something. I mean, it's not that ideal, but it would put them 4 points from safety if games go their way. You never know. You do never know with these things. Salford City are hosting Newport County. Yeah, Newport, they've lost the last flipping 5 games, is it now? Yeah, I don't understand what's going on. Why they're still sticking with the manager. I think I said you should probably sack him. I think that's a fair assessment. Newport could be doing much better. Salford are in 8th, 2 points off the playoffs. They've lost the last 2 games. That was probably due to the FA Cup battering. It sort of took the winds out their sails a bit. But I think they can regather here and get 3 points here. 2-1 to Salford City, probably pushing them back into the playoffs. Yeah. Swindon Town versus Tranmere Rovers. Interesting game at the bottom of the table here. Tranmere Rovers in 22nd, Swindon in 18th. Swindon have been picking up points recently, which I think every Swindon fan is grateful for. And you know what? They could even make a push for mid-table from the end of the season. I think at the moment, Swindon aren't a team on my radar for being in danger of relegation. I'm going to go 3-1 to Swindon Town. Fairly comfortable win for the Robins. Yeah, enough said, really. Nelson Jardim, you need to get out that club. Barnet versus Hartlepool United in the National League. Now, Barnet, I believe they may be... Are they the only National League team playing tonight? Oh no, there's one of 3 matches tonight. But they're the only ones of note in terms of for getting into a position to win the title. So this is a must-win game, to be honest. If they win this one, it puts them on an advantage. And I do think they'll be able to do it. It won't be easy. Hartlepool is a difficult club to overcome. They are in a decent vein of form in terms of the fact that they're just a bit inconsistent, really. They haven't lost many games. They haven't won many either. But I'm going to go with Barnet to win this one. 3-2. Yeah, I think that's a fairly easy thing to say with a team which is so free scoring at the moment. Not the greatest defensively, though. Rochdale versus Boston United. Rochdale in 6th, Boston in 23rd. I think there's something around about Boston at the moment, which there seems to be a belief that they can stay up, and I'm not sure where it's entirely come from. But all credit to them if they manage it. And I think this one's going to be a 0-0 draw. I think Boston will come play out their skins and put in a solid shift, nullifying Rochdale to a 0-0 draw. We've got Southend versus AFC Fylde. AFC Fylde actually are a team which are only 1 point away from safety, and Southend are in 14th. It does provide an opportunity, I think, to get all 3 points, and I think they're going to do this. 2-1 to AFC Fylde. Yeah, so it's just something about Southend's inconsistency which could make it being a benefit towards Fylde at the moment. On to the next one. We're going down into the National League North now. We have got Alfriston Town hosting Leamington. Now, part of me thinks Billy Heath should leave the club. I know, controversial. He's been there for a long time. But they've lost the last 5 games. They're a team which should be in the playoffs. They've consistently shown that they can be over the last few years. And just the fact that they're 12th, 6 points adrift, it makes it quite difficult to get into the playoffs for this end run of the season. So if they want to get to the playoffs, they're going to have to change something. Anyway, whatever they're going to change, I do think they'll win this game. Whether they stick or twist, it doesn't really matter. Leamington are in 17th. They're an interesting team. They've won 3 and lost 3 in the last 6 games. Yeah, wildly inconsistent. I'm going to go 2-0 to the Reds here. I do think Alfreton will probably make it a bit more, bit easier for them to progress back on track, I suppose you could say. Brackley Town versus Kidderminster Harriers. What a fascinating game this is. 3rd versus 4th. This is one of the games which I would earmark as a potential title decider. Brackley are 3 points off the title. Kidderminster Harriers are 2. It's quite a close run thing, to be honest. Both of these teams I couldn't really split between the two at the moment. I think Brackley probably marginally better, but I do think Kidderminster will win this one. 2-0 Kidderminster Harriers. I think over the course of the season, they've just had that slight edge, being slightly better. They score more goals and concede less. So ultimately, that's what I'm going to go with. Darlington versus Buxton, also an incredible game. 7th v 9th, 2 points separating these two teams. If Buxton win this, they'll get back into the playoffs for sure. Yeah, I think with Buxton, I don't know if they're going to get to the playoffs. I really don't. I think Darlington will win this one 1-0. It is home advantage. It's a long way to go. Yeah, certainly think there is something to be said about Darlington reaching the playoffs, which that turnaround which they did from last season has just continued into this one, to be honest. Varsity Celtic are hosting Marine. You know what? 21st versus 24th. I think Farsley will win this one, to be honest. I think, if you look at it, Farsley will want to stay in the league. I know they've got a bit of fan base at the moment, but they'll desperately want to stay in it. 2-0 to Farsley Celtic, which will take them back out of the relegation zone. Oxford City are hosting Curzon Ashton. This is a difficult game. I know Oxford City are in form at the moment, but Curzon Ashton, they're a team which they're out of form at the moment. They're a reason they're in the top 6. I'm going to go 1-0 to Curzon Ashton. I think you just look at it, and I think Curzon Ashton do just have slightly more quality on paper. Peterborough Sports versus Hereford. Yeah, Hereford in 10th, but they have got a bit off a boil recently with Peterborough Sports instead getting on that. They are a good informed team at the moment, picking up in their last 4 games a total of 10 points. It's not a bad return. And continue that form, playoffs could come knocking. It'll be interesting to see this game. I'm going to go Hereford to win this one 4-1. Not because of anything Peterborough has done wrong. I just think that Hereford will need something to get back into the mindset that they can reach the playoffs. And I think that will happen tonight. Radcliffe versus Chester. Radcliffe, they're in 19th. They have been decent of late. 2 wins and a draw in the last 3 games. But I think this is where it comes all undone. Chester are top of the league. 5 wins and a draw in the last 6 games. They are such a good team. They are ruthless. It must be said. I know 2-1 to Chester. Yeah. Turns out that investment that Chester did is really worth it. Because if it gets them into the National League, so be it. Rushall Olympic versus Kingsland Town. Another team who's actually been in decent form is Rushall Olympic. They only lost twice in the last 6 games, winning the other 4. It's good form for a team in the relegation zone. But they are going, again, it's a very similar case to Radcliffe. They're going to Kings Lynn in 5th. Kings Lynn are a team which will have their eye potentially on a title. They're 4 points off. Definitely a playoff contender. We're going to go 2-1 to the Linnets. Scarborough Athletic versus Chorley. Chorley are in 8th, and they've had 4 draws in their last 4 games. So 4 draws on the bounce. I think Scarborough are a bit of a wild card in this league at the moment. One of the most mid-table teams I've probably seen. Mid-table teams at the moment, we've got Peterborough, Alfreton, and Scarborough for me and Leamington probably. Nailed on that inconsistency to being a mid-table team come the end of the season. Just saying, I'm pretty certain they're going to end up between that 10th and 16th place, like what you would probably consider the mid-table. I think Scarborough will probably get a draw here. Chorley have had a lot recently. Another draw, 1-1. Just not what Chorley would be wanting. Scunthorpe United are hosting Needham Market. Needham Market, you're 4 down and buried. They're now only 3 points from safety, and they're actually getting stuff together. But again, it's another team which is big v small, and it's another time I'm going to have to go with big at Glanford Park. 1-0 for Scunthorpe United. They can't let up anything in this title race. Southport are hosting Spennymoor Town. Southport in 16th, Spennymoor in 14th. Southport, a team in mildly better form at the moment. I think it's fair to say, and not much really to separate these two teams. I'm going 2-1 to Spennymoor Town. Yeah, there's not much in it at all. Chesham United versus Salisbury. We now shift our focus onto the National League South. Salisbury, I think, potentially could get dragged into a prolonged relegation battle. Although I'm saying that they are one of the more informed teams in the league at the moment, so maybe not so much. They just need to make sure they continue that. Chesham are hosting them. Chesham are in a very similar, decent run of form, actually. Salisbury have had 4 draws and 2 wins in their last 6 games. Chesham have had 4 draws and 2 wins in their last 6 games. So identical run of form, just a different way of it being arranged, I suppose, in terms of fixtures. So there's not a lot between these two teams. My gut is saying to go with Salisbury, so I will. 3-2 to Salisbury. I think it's going to be a fascinating game and it can go really either way. Chippenham Town versus Torquay United. What a weird team Chippenham is. Like, I actually said the other day to one of my housemates, I feel sorry if you're a Chippenham fan. I really do. Every season, you end up in mid-table. Like, where is the aspiration of this club? You're in 15th. You're not going to get promoted because you're miles away. You're not going to get relegated because you're miles away. What is going on at this club? So, if you're a Chippenham fan, let me know what is the motivation for your club at the moment, because I have seen none of it. Anyway, they are hosting Torquay in third. They did lose their last game. They've only picked up 2 points in the last 3 games, which isn't as much as the Torquay fans will probably be hoping for. I do think it'll be a draw here, a 1-1 draw. I think Chippenham are coming at the right time for this to get a point. And as I said, very mid-table team. Very plausible to get that result. Dorking Wanderers versus Aveley. Dorking have been inconsistent. They have, and the last 3, it's win, loss, win, win, loss, win. So it should be, in terms of this one, another win. I don't think it will be. I think Aveley will actually win this one. A bit of a shock, I'm sure. But I think there's just something telling me that Aveley are a team. I think at the moment, you look both St Albans and Aveley, and potentially even Enfield, are all looking like a team that their disaster classes for most of the season, but now suddenly shifting into gear. And I think they could probably catch up on Welling. They could be closing the gap. So I'm going to 3-1 Aveley in a bit of a shock prediction. I may look like a total idiot for saying it, but I may look like a total genius if it comes off. We like to play a risky game on this channel. If you're subscribed and a long-term viewer, you will know that I play an incredibly risky game, almost consistently. Enfield Town are hosting Eastbourne Borough. Another team I just mentioned was Enfield Town, and another team which I think can get something against the top 6 at the moment, because at the moment they're going draw, win, draw, win. Draw, win, draw, win, draw, win. Yeah, 3 draw wins in a row. And so that just means that there's going to be a draw this game, and I think there might be. I think it'll be quite high scoring. Enfield's defence is woeful. It's the worst in the league by far. I just think that they'll be able to cancel it out. I go with a 4-4 draw, which will be absolutely obscene. Let's just say that. But yeah, we're doing it regardless. Farnborough v Hornchurch. Farnborough are 12th. They are one of the most out-of-form teams in the league, I think. The Farnborough, Slough, and Weymouth, at the moment, based on the last 6 games, are the most out-of-form teams in the league. Yeah, that ain't looking good, Farnborough. They're hosting Hornchurch, which actually I should have added to that. Hornchurch are also one of the most out-of-form teams in the league. Wow, these are just two very bad teams going at each other. It's got this written all over it. A 1-1 draw. Yeah, I just don't think either of these teams really got much to play for anymore. But it is a game. Hampton Richmond Borough versus Weymouth. Weymouth way out of form. You see what I do there? Only 2 wins all season. Conceded 40 goals, which isn't actually that bad in comparison, but they've only scored 18, which is where their issues is. They can't score a goal to save their life. Quite literally, because they're at the bottom of the league. Hampton Richmond Borough are in a good form position. Now, this may be a bit of a Madden, and we're going to go with it. They are, at the moment, 8 points off the playoffs. Is it plausible that they reach there? I think they've got better form at the moment than Truro. I think they're roughly the same form as Dorking. They've got better form than both Weston-super-Mare and Tunbridge Angels above them. There is an outside shout that Hampton Richmond Borough make it. Not saying it's definitely going to happen. There is an outside chance. But they have to win this game, fairly, obviously. I know 1-0 Hampton and Richmond Borough. I think it's going to happen, regardless. Weymouth is just not good this season. Slough Town v Weston-super-Mare. They're having a bit of a mare at the moment, Weston-super-Mare, because they are tumbled out of that. At one point, I believe, top of the league, and now they're toppled into 8th, which just shows how weird this league is. Slough, at one point, were in the playoffs, and now they've tumbled down to 14th. I do think Slough will win this one. Home advantage at Arthur Park and all that. 2-0 to Slough Town. St Albans City versus Tunbridge Angels. St Albans in 21st. They've drawn the last 3 games in a row. Tunbridge Angels are a team which will be wanting to get back into that playoff position. Actually, I don't know if they ever were in it, but they will want to get it. In 9th place. Maybe a bit too much, but I think they're going to win this one. 3-2 to the Angels. Welling United versus Hemel Hempstead Town. This will be an interesting one. Hemel Hempstead actually have won the last 3. So they have finally decided to start turning things around before it looked severely at one point as if they were going to go down. Welling at this point are a team which can be beaten. There's no other way to put that. 1-0 to Hemel Hempstead Town. And they're on a good run of form themselves. Yeah, sorry Welling, but it is what it is. You're going to get probably dragged into a relegation battle. Worthing versus Boreham Wood. Worthing are 4th, Boreham Wood are 1st. Worthing have got the best form in the league. End of. Like, they just do. They're both on 52 points. There's not a lot between them. I'm going to be brutally honest. Other than the fact that Worthing concede a heck of a lot more goals than Boreham Wood. But yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 to Worthing here. Home advantage, they're a good team in form. If Worthing win the league, that'll be a turnout for the books. I really must stress that, because I don't think anybody entirely had Worthing written down at the start of the season for them to go up. I could be wrong, but for some reason, Barrow v Doncaster is tomorrow. We're just going to go with Doncaster being good this season. 1-0 Doncaster. Fairly self-explanatory. Friday night, got Blackburn Rovers versus Preston North End in a great Championship Lancashire derby. Although Blackburn see Burnley as their main rivals and Preston see Blackpool, I do think there is a bit of a visceral hatred between these two as well. So local bragging rights and all that. 2-1 to Preston North End. I think it's the form for local derbies goes out the windows, and I just can't see. I think Preston will win. That is that. Farsley Celtic versus Alfreton Town. As I said, I think Alfreton are going to go back on form now. They've got a couple of easier games. They've got Leamington and now they've got Farsley. It's not even that far, actually, because it is at Buxton's ground. So they may get quite a large away following despite being on a Friday night. 3-2 to Alfreton Town. Hopefully, we see them back in the playoffs at the end of the season. Well, you probably don't if you are a fan of another team that doesn't like the boring style of play that Alfreton insist on playing season after season. But you know what? I don't care. I want them there. It's effective. Nottingham Forest versus Brighton and Hove Albion. I am just praying that Nottingham Forest lose this game. I just genuinely just don't like that club for obvious reason. But because if they lose this one, then it means that both Man City and Newcastle can capitalise, and it means Nottingham Forest get out these Champions League spots, and hopefully they continue to tumble. You know, and I think Brighton is a team which could feasibly actually do this. They have a good team on paper. 3-2 to Brighton Hove Albion. Hopefully, the words that Brian Clough, I believe, used of so they say the game is won on paper, but the game was never played on paper. I may have misascribed that to him, but hopefully that hasn't come to curse me. AFC Bournemouth versus Liverpool. Bournemouth in 7th, Liverpool in 1st. But both of these teams have been in really good form lately. Bournemouth have done some absolutely slaying of giants and are 1 point away from the Europa League spot. I'm going to go 4-0 Liverpool. I don't disrespect Bournemouth's team for what they've done recently. I just think Liverpool are so cutting edge this season, and they'll be desperately wanting to make sure that the title is theirs. Everton versus Leicester City. At the other end of the table, we've got 16th versus 17th. This could really go either way, and I think Leicester need it more, so I'm going to go with Leicester 2-0 to Leicester City. Either way, if Tottenham lose, whatever way this game goes, they will somehow get closer to the relegation zone. Ipswich Town versus Southampton. Same with this one, actually. 19th versus 20th. Yeah, and Southampton, please do break our record. We would highly appreciate you for doing that. I do think Ipswich will win this one 3-2 in what is the most end-to-end poor defensive showing of football ever known to mankind. But yeah, it'll give Ipswich some life, which I suppose is something that they can definitely count themselves on needing to stay in the league. Never too late to be in a good vein of form. Newcastle United versus Fulham. Newcastle are 5th, Fulham are 10th. I think Newcastle will probably edge this one out. They are at home. I'm going to go 3-0 to Newcastle United. As you can see out my window, St James's Park. You can hear the crowd. Yeah, would love to see it. Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Aston Villa. Now the thing is, normally I'd say Wolves will get absolutely destroyed in this game. If it wasn't for the fact that it's like a really strong local derby. Now the Black Country, I've got a lot of affinity. My granddad's from Black Country, my mum, and it was grew up in the Black Country. So I know how much, but I also grew up in Birmingham for 5 years of my life, from until I was 2 till 7. So I just know that there's a lot of hatred on both sides of each other. More definitely in Black Country than Birmingham on the hatred side. But I think that there's just something here which is telling me that because of what this game means much more than just the form, I'm going with a 1-1 draw. Yeah. Bet you didn't see that coming. Oxford United versus Bristol City in the Championship. Bristol City are a team which actually look like they might sneak into the playoffs. They're in 8th, 3 points off the playoffs. If they get a bit of consistency going, I think they could just do it. They are away to Oxford, which is not actually that far away. 15th place Oxford, who are actually in a really, really good vein of form. That must be said. I'm going to go 1-0 with Bristol City, though, um, seeing them ending up in the playoffs. Plymouth Argyle versus a West Bromwich Albion. West Brom in 5th, um, Plymouth Argyle in 24th. Now, if this isn't going to be a West Brom win, I don't know what is. Plymouth have been horrible this season, and I'm just hoping that West Brom do win, because, I know Plymouth's a hard stadium to go to, but 3-0 to West Brom. Fairly self-explanatory reasons why, to be honest. I was mistaken when I said that they were 10th. I'm not entirely sure how you can claim that West Brom have been doing too poorly this season, considering that top four being a class above everyone else. Watford versus Norwich City. The battle of the historical yo-yo clubs for what seemed like about 5 years, either Norwich or Watford, or maybe both, were going up and down together. Actually, I think most of the time they were doing it in conjunction. It's 9th v 10th this season, though, so a little bit of an underperformance from both of them, must be said. I'll go 3-2 to Watford, home advantage at Vicarage Road. And there is still not beyond the realms a possibility that they do reach the playoffs themselves, 3 points off it. But yeah, it's probably going to be a bit too much for them. I would imagine the only ones who are realistically going to manage to get in is Blackburn, but they've lost the form. Sheffield United versus Derby County at Pride Park. I'm just hoping for something at this point. Anything, a really good performance, please. And I know Sheffield United have lost 2 in the last 6 games. Can we add another one to their woes? I think, I know we're the worst team in the league at the moment. I'm not getting over that. Like, we have been dreadful, to be honest. We lost to Cardiff. Like, do you know how bad that is for a team in the relegation zone? Now, we're in 22nd. Paul Warren must win this game. Well, I mean, I want him out anyway. But yeah, 2-0 to Derby County. I think it's blind ignorance, to be honest, to go with that. But if it happens, it happens. I'm just wanting Derby to win something once, and I'm fed up of predicting Derby to lose on this channel because people start thinking that I'm not actually a Derby fan. So we're going to go to the absurd. Hull City versus Stoke City. This is a game which I do not want to be happening this weekend. 19th versus 20th. Yeah, they are both 2 points above Derby, and they could definitely. I don't think it's a draw. I really don't. Even though Stoke have had a lot of draws this season. I'm going to go 2-0 to Stoke. I just believe that they are a marginally better side. I know the table doesn't say that, but I think in terms of their team, I think Stoke are marginally better. Leeds United versus Cardiff City. Cardiff are on a really good run of form. They've had 4 draws and 2 wins in their last 6 games, which is 3 draws and 3 wins for Leeds United. So I think this has actually got a draw in on it. 2-2 draw here, which I think a lot of people will be happy with because we don't want to see Leeds win the title, which would pave the way for Burnley to potentially get the top spot if we're currently at the. Actually, no, because if they get a draw, they won't. But it will certainly help Burnley on their chase to the title, which will come to Burnley later. Millwall versus Queen's Park Rangers. Millwall are in 16th, QPR in 13th. QPR were great apart from their last match because somehow they were on a really, really good run of form and they lost 2-0 to Sheffield Wednesday. It wasn't the worst result. I mean, Sheffield Wednesday are a decent team in this league. Even so. I think Millwall, not Millwall. Well, no, yeah, we'll go with Millwall. I think we saw QPR can come undone against an inconsistent mid-table team, so we're going to go with the same with Millwall. For me, 3 teams which will end up in mid-table in the Championship. We did this last time. We did this in a different league. We've got Watford, Coventry City, and Millwall. They're the 3 teams I think will definitely be mid-table come the end of the season. I'm going to go with a 2-0 Millwall win. here. I could see it happening just because it's at the Den. It's a bit of a local rivalry. They're both from London. Good game. We said we were going to come on to Burnley shortly. They are travelling to Fratton Park, home of the mighty Portsmouth. Home fans are great, and that's enough that can be said for that. I'm going to simply go 5-1 to Burnley. And I know Burnley are the most free-flowing team in the Championship, and they've probably scored about as many goals to get you into mid-table as anything. But you look, 51 goals conceded. The only other team who's conceded more than that is Plymouth Argyle. So I do think Portsmouth overall do probably relegation zone, purely based on that metric. Sheffield Wednesday versus Luton Town. I think Luton might win this one. They are in desperate need for a win. And I think Sheffield Wednesday are so inconsistent, they're probably going to end up giving it to them. I hope that Sheffield provides a blessing for us. But we're going to go 1-0 Luton. I'm hoping Sheffield Wednesday win and Sheffield United lose. It could be a nice Sheffield blessing for us. So I am siding with all Sheffield Wednesday fans this weekend. Swansea City versus Coventry City. Swansea v Coventry is 17th versus 12th. Swansea have lost the last 3. Coventry have won the last 3. So all logic would point towards a Coventry win here. Don't think that's quite going to be how it pans out. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. It is at Swansea's home. But yeah, I think Swansea are pretty clear of relegation troubles. Although I said that about Derby at one point, and look at where we are now. So maybe I should stop cursing clubs. On to an early kick-off in League One. We've got Barnsley versus Burton Albion. Now, this would, if my prediction for the midweekers come right, put Burton on the cusp. I think Burton would have won 3 and drawn 1 of the last 4 games, which means that it would have been a really good informed team. But you can only be so good when you're up against a Barnsley team, which is at home. Such a good team. 2-0 to Barnsley. I'm sorry. It's got to be done. I mean, I'm just going to look at the 2 losses here that they had this recently. It was a 1-0 against Stevenage and a 3-1 against Bristol Rovers, which, to be fair, that shouldn't have happened. That is poor from Barnsley, but I think back to winning ways this week for Barnsley. Stevenage are hosting Exeter City at the Lamex Stadium. Very, very mid-table. I'm going to be honest with you. Do you want the 3 teams that yeah, we'll go 4 teams actually. I think I'm going to end up mid-table this league. We'll go with Bolton Wanderers. That may shock some of you, but I think Bolton Wanderers are a team which is so inconsistent at the moment that they'll probably end up in mid-table. I think we're going to go with Rotherham United. I think we're going to go with Blackpool. And we're going to go with Wigan. We're going to go with 4. I think they are the 4 who at the moment I can see being mid-table. So where does that leave Stevenage? I think Stevenage will could probably end up in mid-table. There's a more chance than not. They're hosting Exeter City, as I said, 15th versus 17th. Exeter in a poor run of form, and I'm just thinking this is going to be a 1-1 draw here, to be honest. I think both of these teams could end up slightly getting cut off into... Exeter's certainly could end up getting cut off into a really unhealthy scrap at the bottom of the league for the end of the season. Birmingham City versus Rotherham United. Rotherham, as I said, in form, but can they really overcome Birmingham with this? There's only so much a form does. I'm going with a 0-0 draw, which may be a bit of a shock, but I do think Birmingham have had a lot of draws recently. Like most of their draws have come in very recent times. So yeah. Blackpool versus Charlton Athletic, 10th v 14th. The draw specialist of Blackpool will probably get another draw here. Shock horror. A 1-0 draw. I bet Blackpool fans at this point are just fed up of getting draws. Cambridge United versus Wycombe Wanderers. Wycombe in second. They'll think this is probably a given game, but it is certainly not. I think Cambridge could get something in. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw at the Abbey Stadium. An absolute scene for Cambridge as they try to claw as many points to get, in fact, elusive 20th spot. Crawley Town versus Wrexham. I do think Wrexham will win this one. I know they've been inconsistent of late, but Crawley have been horrible. 1-0 to Wrexham. Leyton Orient versus Stockport County. Leyton Orient have had pretty plain sailing at the moment. I know some of the fixtures that they've had have been difficult. Reading recently they won 2-0 off, which would be certainly a difficult game. And so was when they played Derby and they managed to get from penalties. Then they had easier games. They've had Shrewsbury, Leyton Orient, Cambridge, Crawley. The Barnsley 4-0 does stand out, but I think this is a big test for them, to be honest. They've had it pretty much going their way over the last few results, let's say. And they're up against a Stockport team which are in the playoffs. There's a reason they're in the playoffs, because they have got a formidable attack and quite a decent defence as well. So yeah, Stockport to win 3-0. I do think there is something to say said for Leyton potentially, though, getting a result here. Northampton Town versus Huddersfield Town. Easy win for Huddersfield. I'm sorry, Northampton. I'm desperately hoping Burton overtake you and you get relegated. 2-1 to Huddersfield Town. Reading versus Bolton Wanderers. Reading in 8th, Bolton in 9th. This is going to be a close game because both are really inconsistent. That's the mildest way of putting it. 2-1 to go to Reading. I think home advantage pays off here. It's ever making, and as I already alluded to before, Bolton, I think, will end up in mid-table come the end of the season. Shrewsbury Town versus Mansfield Town. I think Mansfield might lose this one. I think you look at Shrewsbury at the bottom of the league, but they definitely have fight in their spirit, and it's home advantage as well. 2-0 to Shrewsbury Town. Wigan Athletic versus Lincoln City. Yeah, Wigan very mid-table at the moment. I reckon we'll probably get a draw on this one against Lincoln. I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw. On to League 2, got Cheltenham Town versus Chesterfield at Wadden Road. Very much both of these teams, they're very much in their position of 10th v 14th, both quite mid-table. It's not much between the two teams, I must say. At the moment, I'm saying with League 2, I can't actually tell which team will be in mid-table come the end of the season because it's such a wild league. Like, I'm not making any bold predictions for this. I think there's going to be a 1-1 draw between these two teams. Chesterfield should be getting back onto some form at some point soon, I would envisage. Gillingham versus Notts County. As I said, Gillingham are utter tripe at the moment, to put it politely. They are up against Notts County, who are a really good team at the moment. 2-1 Notts County at Priestfield, and the woes for Gillingham continue for John Coleman. AFC Wimbledon versus Bradford City. I'm going to go with a Bradford City win. This is going to be quite an interesting game because both of these teams are immensely good on form at the moment. We're going to go with a 1-0 win for the Bantams. Bromley are hosting Grimsby Town. Yeah, 9th v 11th. It's a difficult game. I really can't see which way this will go. I'm going to go home advantage, 3-1 to Bromley, purely on the basis it's at home. It'll be interesting to see what Bromley do from here on in for the rest of the season. Carlisle United are hosting Swindon Town. I think you look at it, I think Carlisle will probably get something from this. Swindon have been good team of late. We'll go with a 1-1 draw. It's at Brunton Park. I believe that's what their stadium is called. Um, so yeah, I just can't get over the fact that Carlisle will be relegated again. You know what I mean? They've always been such a good team. Well, they've sometimes been mid-table, but they've been over recent years solid team in League Two. Doncaster Rovers versus MK Dons. MK Dons on a bit of a bad, stinky run of form. They're up against Doncaster, who, a bit inconsistent, but they're currently in the top three, so you can't batter it away too much. 3-0 to Doncaster Rovers at the Keep Moat Stadium. Harrogate Town versus Crewe Alexandra, and I know Harrogate have done well of late. That is a fair assessment to make, but they're down in 19th. There's a reason they're down in 19th, and Crewe are in second, and I think for that reason, it's going to be a narrow win for Crewe, 1-0. Morecambe versus Fleetwood Town. Now, I think there should have been an early kickoff. In brutally honest, I couldn't really care. I know I have a loose supporting an affinity with Cheltenham. Not sorry with Cheltenham, with Chesterfield. I don't really, unless is it actually that one which is the one which is the earlier kickoff? Yeah, it is. I think Gillingham are going to lose, so I don't know why Gillingham may not counties on TV. And same with Cheltenham versus Chesterfield. I think a local rivalry in Morecambe versus Fleetwood. Maybe I just wanted fans in the stadium for it. Maybe that was it. But yeah, this will be a fascinating game. I think they're going to equal each other out. A 1-1 draw. Newport County versus Barrow. Newport in 21st, but Barrow on a bit of a poor run of form, as are Newport. I don't think either of these teams aren't doing that good of a job at the moment. 1-1 draw at Rodney Parade. Port Vale are hosting Accrington Stanley. And you know what? We're going to go for it. Another 1-0 draw. Yeah, I think Port Vale are a fair few draws in them. Which they've not been able to convert as many of them draws into wins as they probably would want. So that's probably why they're in fourth. But they're certainly an interesting team. Tranmere Rovers versus Colchester United. We're going to go for a 4th 1-1 draw. Yes, I think Colchester in 13th, playing against a team in Tranmere Rovers. Tranmere Rovers will be wanting to get a point desperately to make sure that they're not dragged into that relegation zone. 1-1 draw at Printon Park. Yeah. Walsall v Salford City. I know I said that the Salford could get the revival back in the midweek game, but the games don't come hard on Walsall this season. 2-1 to Walsall. Braintree Town versus Hartlepool United in the National League. There's only about half the games in the National League actually going ahead this season because of the FA, this week rather, because of the FA Trophy, which is the main reason why we do not need to have a National League Cup, guys. The FA Trophy exists. Braintree Town, I think, could get something from this. I just got a sneaky suspicion. They're on a decent run of form in the last 3 games. Braintree, I reckon, could probably get safety, which didn't look certain, and I'm still not saying it is certain, because there is still only 5 points away from the relegation zone. I reckon they could get it. And a point here will certainly help. A 1-1 draw at Cresswell Road, I believe it's called, Braintree's ground. So yeah. AFC Fylde are hosting Oldham Athletic. Now, Oldham, have I cursed you? I think I said a few weeks ago that if Oldham win their game in hands and stuff, then they may be able to get their hands on the title. And ever since I think that point, they've picked up 2 points in the last 5 games. Like, what is going on? I think they're going to lose this one, to be honest. I think Fylde, there's a potential that they could stay up this season. I'm going to go 3-0 to Fylde. And it's quite a localised game as well. So there'll probably be quite a lot of fans. FC Halifax Town versus Ipswich United. Ebbsfleet are in 24th. There ain't much going for that club at the moment. They got 12 points all season, conceded 65 goals. Mental. Yet, I think they'll get a 0-0 here. I think Halifax have got a draw or two in their locker of late. It has sort of been seen. They've had 3 wins and 3 draws. So yeah, I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw. Bit of a shock, I imagine. Tamworth v Barnet. I think Tamworth, their defence have just not been as good as last season. But I do think there's something to be said for Tamworth being able to get a result. And I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw here against Barnet. Not what Barnet want to hear, but they have had 4 draws, as I've already alluded to, in their last 6 games. It's just likely to happen, isn't it? Wealdstone v Solihull Moors. I am going to go with Solihull Moors. They have lost for the last 3 in a row, but they're up against Wealdstone, which are a team for me, which I'm going to say are going to be relegated. I know they're in 21st and they're 1 point off safety, but I think Wealdstone is the team who I think will be relegated. There's just not enough gusto in them, 1-0 to Solihull Moors. I don't think it'll be a thumping. They haven't really been thumped this season properly. They've just not been managing to win games. They've drawn a fair few games and they've lost a fair few games. They've only won 5 games this season. This is part of the issue. York City versus Dagenham and Redbridge. Dagenham and Redbridge in 16th. They're so inconsistent, but I reckon they'll probably get something from this because York recently have been inconsistent as well. 1-1 draw at the LNER Community Stadium. In the FA Trophy, we have Aldershot Town versus Boreham Wood. Boreham Wood doing a fantastic job in the National League South. Could well make an instant return to the National League. Aldershot, they're doing all right recently. They're in 18th. They're picking up the points slowly, but I do think they'll be overcome here. Boreham Wood to win 3-0. And another Tier 6 team to go through to the next round of the FA Trophy. Aldrincham versus Eastleigh. This game could go really either way. It's hard to tell. I'm going to go with a marginal 1-0 win for Eastleigh. Gainsborough Trinity versus Woking. I can't really see which way this is going to go. I'm going with a 0-0 draw because Gainsborough have done a lot of giant killing already. 0-0 draw, Woking to win on penalties. But I think Gainsborough's done a great job in the FA Trophy this season. I think it's one for the fans to remember. Some of the great upsets already have been done by them. Kidderminster Harriers versus Sutton United. Kidderminster doing well in the National League North. I don't think they've been doing as well as Sutton. I know they're only a point off the playoffs, but we're going to go 4-1 to Kidderminster Harriers. I just think there's something to be said for the underdog getting through to carry on that momentum, Oxford City versus Forest Green Rovers. Another 2 teams that are very close to each other. This is like proper just cross the Cotswolds from each other. I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw and Forest Green Rovers to win on penalties. That I could feasibly see Oxford doing likewise. Southend United versus Sittingbourne. Versus a game which is just a boat ride across from one another, to be honest. If you actually look at the map, they are, what is it? Like, if you actually drew a straight line, I imagine it's not even that far. It's one of them really, really weird ones that if there was a bridge between the two, there would be absolutely local well, okay, let's not say local rivals, because that just makes me sound stupid because they've never been in the same league as each other. Sittingbourne a lot, tier 8. Don't get me wrong, it does a fantastic run from Sittingbourne at the moment. But yeah, so Southend are in a straight line to sort of Gillingham, Carlo. Yeah, sort of Gillingham. Okay, yeah. So no, yeah, Sittingbourne is in an almost like direct straight line from Southend across the Thames estuary. Yeah, well, I was right. That's impeccable geography considering I live nowhere near that area of the country. Anyway, as I was saying, this would be a local rivalry. Well, a somewhat local rivalry if they were both playing at high county war as well. We're going with a nil-nil draw and Southend to win on penalties. I think Sittingbourne will come and throw everything at this game. Spennymoor Town versus Boston United. Yeah, Spennymoor hosting this. Boston were obviously in the National League North last season and probably look destined to return to it. Spennymoor mid-table, as per. I think it'll be a nil-nil draw. Spennymoor, though, this time to win on penalties. I'm going to go with a team who are lower ranked. Worthing versus Rochdale. Worthing are doing well, as are Rochdale. I think Worthing will probably hold them to a nil-nil draw. I do think Rochdale's firepower in the penalty shootout will win out. Right, I believe we are now on to the National League North as we have got Buxton playing against Southport. I think Southport will just about win this one. I don't want to say it because I want Buxton to win, but I think home advantage. Oh no, it's not home advantage. Sorry, what am I saying? Because at Buxton's ground, at Silverlands. I think, yeah, I'm going to go with a 1-0 Southport win. I just can't get over. Something is just telling me that Southport will win this game, and I can't shift it. Curzon Ashton versus Rushall Olympic. I think Rushall could get something for this. As I said, they've been a good form team for a team in the relegation zone, and Curzon Ashton for a team in the playoffs has not been. I'm going to go on a limb here and say a 1-1 draw. Hereford versus Brackley. I think Hereford are about to have a little bit of a revival. It's hard because Brackley are a good team. They're like one of the best teams at the moment. But I am going to go with a 1-0 Hereford win at Edgar Street. It could be monumental. Kings Lynn Town versus Radcliffe. I think fairly self-explanatory for the Linnets to win this one. I know Radcliffe have done well lately, but they're a team which have just managed to resurface out relegation zone. 2-1 Mo to Kings Lynn. Leamington v Marine. I'm going to go with a 0-0 draw here. I know Leamington haven't had a lot of draws this season, but I do just, and even Marine to be honest, I just have a feeling that they will just sort of cancel each other out with their abjectness, to be honest. Needham Market versus Wallington Town. I think Needham Market can win this one, actually. I think Needham Market, if they do win this by a hefty margin, to be fair, the goal difference is not in their favour. But I do think if Needham Market gather a few results together, they could maybe survive. 2-1 to Needham Market. Never say never. Peterborough Sports versus Chester. I know Chester have done really, really well recently, but so have Peterborough Sports, okay? I'm saying it now. Peterborough Sports will get something from this. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. I think a point apiece, which doesn't help Chester in their position for trying to get the title, but it does help Peterborough potentially get into the playoffs. South Shields are hosting Scarborough Athletic, 13th versus 15th. Could go really either way, to be honest. I'm going to go with a 1-0 win to South Shields. But yeah, not a lot of riding on it. On the National League South front, we got Chelmsford City versus Chesham United. Not much between these two teams this season, to be honest. 11th place for Chesham, 13th for Chelmsford. Can't see much separating the two. Chesham are the more informed team, but I do think it'll just end a draw with a draw specialist Chelmsford. 2-2 draw here. Chippenham Town are hosting Aveley. Yeah, I think Chippenham will win this one 1-0. I know I said that Aveley can be plucky and stuff, but you just look at Chippenham, it's such a mid-table team. It's just, I can't see beyond them winning this one. Dorking Wanderers versus Slough Town. Slough have been slothful, lethargic, pretty poor to watch at times, and Dorking will want to make sure that they are definitely at least in the playoffs. 5-0 to Dorking Wanderers. Pretty dominant performance from the Surrey-based team. Eastbourne Borough versus Tunbridge Angels. I think Eastbourne are going to capitulate against this one, actually. I think Tunbridge could get something. I'm going to go 3-0 to Tunbridge Angels. Mental prediction. But if Tunbridge Angels reach the playoffs, this will be the result because of it. Enfield Town versus Farnborough. Farnborough have been one of the worst teams of late to watch, and I think Enfield Town will capitalise on that. 4-1 to Enfield Town. Could they be pushing a late surge for survival? Hornchurch v Salisbury, 17th v 18th. I mean, Salisbury are the better team at the moment, but I do think it's just going to end another draw, to be honest. I'm going to go with another 2-2 draw. There ain't much to separate the two of them, trust me. Maidstone United versus Torquay United. Okay, this is a huge game. Oh, 3rd v 4th. Both would be really, really good. Oh, I wish I didn't have to make this prediction. You know what I mean? Because, yeah, I'm going to go with a 3-2 Maidstone win. Home advantage, I think, is just going to weigh out here. Which would put... Why did I say 3rd v 4th? It's 2nd v 3rd, rather. Which will put Maidstone into the title spot, because at the moment Boreham Wood will not be playing this weekend in the National League South. So psychologically, will be huge. St Albans City are hosting Hampton and Richmond Borough. Although I have said that Hampton and Richmond could reach the playoffs, I think St Albans are going to provide a bit of an obstacle for that. 1-0 St Albans City. Truro City are hosting Bath in Cornwall versus Somerset. Bit of a West Country mismatch. I'm going to go with the 1-1 draw here. 7th place Truro, Bath in 19th. But Bath have picked up a fair few points recently, actually. They decided that they no longer want to be relegated. Weston-super-Mare versus Hemel Hempstead Town. As I said, Hemel Hempstead are on a good run, and they're going to Weston-super-Mare, who mixed form. Another 1-1 draw here. Weymouth v Welling United. Welling are 20th, Weymouth 24th. I just feel like Welling won't get all 3 points here. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw at the Bob Lucas Stadium. It won't be enough for Weymouth, but they're not good. Brentford v Tottenham Hotspur. Let's all laugh at Tottenham. I think it's the most Spursy thing ever. There's a point where Spursy doesn't even describe what Spurs are right now. Like, what? Postecoglou, absolute mare of a manager. They are 8 points away from relegation, which, okay, it's a bit of an exaggeration and a bit of a leap. But I've just been saying in the National League South that Welling can get relegated and they're 10 points away from relegation. Like, things can happen. Teams can gain momentum. You can get overtaken. I think Brentford are going to get something from this. A 2-2 draw, which doesn't help Tottenham in any way in their current position. So, yeah. Manchester United versus Crystal Palace. What can be said of Tottenham can literally be said of Manchester United. There's a few more points above them, but again, Manchester United are not the club of old, and I think Crystal Palace will capitalise. 1-0 to Palace here. Arsenal playing Manchester City in what would have been a few seasons ago the game for the title. I don't think it really is this season. 1-0 Arsenal, though. I think we've just been better this season. Bristol Rovers are hosting Peterborough United. Yeah, interesting. I think Peterborough United may actually edge this one out. I know Peterborough being rough at the moment, but so Bristol Rovers, to be honest. 2-0 Peterborough United. Chelsea are hosting West Ham United. I'm going to go a simple 5-0 for Chelsea. Big man Bosch, absolute domination. Yeah. Middlesbrough versus Sunderland on the Monday night. Absolutely excited to see this game. Because this is a local rivalry and it's, I believe, 4th v 6th at the moment, which is a absolute... 4th v 6th. Very interesting game, and as predictably, it will end with a 1-1 draw. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys, but games this state this high don't end in a draw. Like, do just end in a draw. Hemel Hempstead Town, sorry, are playing. Sorry, Bournemouth are playing this weekend, just on a Monday night, as well as in the FA Trophy. They're against Hemel Hempstead Town. I know Hemel Hempstead are doing well at the moment, so it's Bournemouth. 6-0 to the Wood. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. This has been way too long for me to record. Please subscribe if you're new around here, and I will see you all in the next one.